Okay, good morning, everybody. Shalom Aleichem. We are good to go. We are gearing up. We are ready. Come stop by the shul if you're coming to shul. If you're not coming to shul, we are going to miss you. We're going to miss you this year. Your vote is to stay home, but we are going to deeply miss you. If this is you're coming to shul and you're nervous about the setup, what's going to be, please, I encourage you to come to shul. Stop by for Mincha Marav tonight. Text myself, one of the Gabayim. Let us know, or just stop by during the day and see how this setup is going. We have 3 robust tents in the back parking lot of the shul that fill up the whole entire shul, fill up the back parking lot with over 100 spots for seating. An additional tent is going to be put up in the gardens, Shomer Torah Gardens, for the Sephardi Minyan, brand new Sephardi Minyan started last year. And check out the main shul and downstairs, as the seating is very socially distanced one from another. Air conditioning will be at full blast. If you're davening inside, I'm going to bring a kittel on the talus, but bring a sweatshirt if you'd like. Also, it's going to be really, really great. I'm really looking forward. So I thought this Thursday, we've been learning 5 to go on the Parsha for the past, I think, 3-4 months at this point. By now, we're going to learn Rosh Hashana to go. 5 meaningful thoughts on the Machzor and the Yantif of Rosh Hashana. I have 6 here. I think it's due credit. We'll do 6. I encourage you also, we printed out the 2020 Visions Journal, reflections and thoughts from members of our community about what they went through and their new perspectives on life. They will be printed out, and there'll be a table where people can take them. You can print them out from your computer. We sent it out the other day. It's really, really beautiful. On Erev Rosh Hashanah and Shabbos tomorrow at 5 p.m., we're going to end the year with brachos. So myself, Rabbi Yudin, Chevy, Sarah, Danny Pickett, President, are going to make l'chaims. We're going to make l'chaims together as a community to end this very difficult year on a high. End the year with divrei bracha. I encourage everybody to join us at 5 p.m. It's not going to be a long. I know everyone's got a lot of things going on. People probably have the family Zooms also that are going to be set up, which are nice. If you're not going to be with the family for this year, set up a family Zoom on Erev Rosh Hashanah to get together with everybody. But first come, or afterwards, come to join your Shomer Torah communal family, and this way we could see each other and wish each other, positive greetings and good blessings as we end the year, Be'ezrat Hashem, on a high. 5 p.m. tomorrow, and I think another email will go out. And tonight, I'll be giving a drasha at 8:30 p.m. for Rosh Hashanah. I will be, hopefully, I hope on the first day Rosh Hashanah, I will be trying to make it at every minyan, attend every minyan, to get to see everybody and learn a little bit of Torah with everyone. The drashas will be a little bit shorter this year, and as I try to make it through every minyan, the drashas will need to be a little bit shorter on day 1. Okay, Rosh Hashanah to go. 5 meaningful thoughts on the Machzor. Let's begin. Coronation. This is in the Rabbi Sachs Siddur. He quotes a classic story from Rabbi Soloveitchik, which is awesome. Awesome. I'm telling my kids we're having guests this Yantif. You think you're not having guests? You are. The king. The king is coming to your home. No, Harvey, not Elvis. The king with the capital K. He's coming to our homes. Our teacher, Rav Soloveitchik, used to write. Rav Soloveitchik grew up in a small town in Europe called Chaslavich, and he writes his teacher was a Lubavitcher Chassid, and he used to tell everyone, like the little kids. The Rav was like, I don't know, 6 years old, and he'd say, "Do you know what Rosh Hashanah is?" So the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, would call the night of Rosh Hashanah. This is what it was called in Hasidus. The night of Rosh Hashanah is called. I'm not going to read that in whatever language that's in. It's called Coronation Night, Night of Coronation. Then he would ask his children, "Who are we coronating? So the Rav, as a little kid, got up. I know who we're coronating. We're coronating Tsar Nicholas. He's the king. We're coronating Nicholas II, the last emperor of Russia." He's a horrible man. The teacher responded, "Nicholas, he was crowned years ago. Do we need to crown him again? He's not a real king." And he says, no. Dear children, right? Kinderlach, he probably said. Kinderlach. You know who we're coronating tonight? Whose crown are we putting on his head? Lahavdil, we're putting it on HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Ribono Shel Olam, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're putting the crown on his head tonight. And he says, do you know who places the crown on his head? The teacher continued, it's Yankel the tailor, Beryl the shoemaker, Zalman the water carrier, Yassel the painter, and David the butcher. That is coordinating the king tonight. Each and every one of you. And Rabbi Soloveitchik concluded, and this is powerful, because Rabbi Soloveitchik was the Ish Halacha. He knew Shas cold, Kol HaTorah Kula, like the back of his hand. And he said, I have given many sermons and written many discourses on the concept of Rosh Hashana, but nothing ever made me feel the true depth and power of the day as those words of my childhood teacher. Think about those words that the Rav writes. Nothing, right? Ever made me feel the true depth and power of the day of Rosh Hashanah as those words. Every year, when I recite in the Rosh Hashanah prayers, Meloch al kol ha'olam kulo bichvodecha, rule over the world in your glory, I remember my teacher in Chaslavich. It just teaches you, there are a few different lessons here. Number one, Rosh Hashanah. We all are b'mamlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, each and every one of us, on our own level, in our own way, in our own connection and relationship to Kadosh Baruch Hu, but also shows you the power of a teacher. The power not just of any teacher. I teach in high school. The kids already learned a lot. The power of young teachers that teach young children, the power and the impression that they can make on children, even, right? You could have a Yosef Dov Soloveitchik in your classroom. You can, right? Actually, the truth is, I was teaching a camp a few years ago. One of my students' names was Aaron Lichtenstein. No relation, but it was like his. I called him the Gadol Hador. That's what I called him. So, but you can and look at the imprint that a Gadol was made from his young teacher. Amazing. Number two, this year is a very unique year. We're all talking about unique year. It's Corona, COVID, social distancing, mask wearing. You're right. It's very unique in that year, but it's also Rosh Hashanah Shechal Yos b'Shabbos. This year, Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the year is Shabbos. Next week, Bezrat Hashem, live and over Zoom, we're going to have a Shabbos Shubah Drasha. We're going to talk about this more. This connection between Rosh Hashanah and Shabbos, Yom Kippur and Shabbos. Yom Kippur is called Shabbat Shabbaton. It's a double Shabbos. What's going on there? What's our avodah this year? But it's Rosh Hashanah and Shabbos. And there's a beautiful story from the Kedushas Levi, Levi Yitzchak Miberditchev. You know, Levi Yitzchak says there are two books that are opened up on Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur. The Sifrei Chaim and the Sifrei Mason. The book of the living and the book of the not living, right? And we learn that Kadosh Baruch Hu has these books opened on Rosh Hashanah. And at Rosh Hashanah, he writes our names down in one of those ledgers, in one of those books, okay? And now, says the Kedushas Levi the following. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you would daven out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a year like this year, a year when we don't blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah on the first day, a year where it's Shabbos. Things are a little bit different in terms of the halachos. And he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you follow the halachos of the Jewish people. And the Jewish people are keeping Shabbos, then you must keep Shabbos. So this Rosh Hashanah, you're not allowed to write. You're not allowed to write. You can't write because it's Rosh Hashanah. You can't write. So he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the only time a Jew is allowed to break the malachos and Shabbos, and break Shabbos, is for what reason? To break Shabbos to save someone's life. You can only break Shabbos for pikuach nefesh purposes. And we know this all too well, right? You need to go to the hospital, God forbid, even Suffolk, you can violate Shabbos. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this year, you can only write the Jewish people in the Sifrei Chaim. You can only write the Jewish people in the Book of Life. You can't write them. You're stuck. You can't write them in the Book of the Mason because that's not allowed. You can't violate Shabbos. It'd be purposeless for you to write in there. It'd be usher. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this year, Tichtevenu l'chaim. Mutter l'cha lichtov. It'd be permitted for you to write in the Sefer Chaim because pikuach nefesh is doche Shabbos. So Bezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should listen to the tefillos of Rav Levi Yitzchak, the Kedushas Levi, and write us all, inscribe us all in the Book of Life. Third thought, a few different stories. I'm into stories this year. Okay, I think we need stories. Third thought comes from the story of the Baal Shem Tov. One time this year again, we have 5 minyanim. In those 5 minyanim, we have 4 different shofar blowers. One person, Dr. Karp, is blowing shofar in 2 different minyanim, which is completely fine. It's api halacha, that's okay. And we have, again, this is brand new for the history of Shomrei Torah. We've had essentially Rabbi Gershon, that was it. And we had someone else rotating downstairs. For a while it was Dr. Herman, and last year was Dr. Karp. And this year we have 5. We have a few new. We have actually two new shofar blowers. They never blew shofar before. They're very good. They both came over, and they're great. They're going to be great. And we have a bunch of new makris, people that call out the tkiya, shvarim. Not every shul actually is doing that this year. We're going to do that. We'll stand 6 feet apart. We'll do it. We'll get it done. So the Baal Shem Tov once asked one of his students, Rav Zev Kitchus, to prepare as the makri on Rosh Hashana, and he gave him all the secrets. He said, Rebbe, I just can't do it. Tell me all the kavanos, the Kabbalistic, intentions that I need to have to prepare the right way for Rosh Hashanah. And he sat down with his Rebbe probably through the night, writing everything down, inscribing everything, and trying to bring as much as he could to memory. Obviously, it was so much that for every tkiya, it was a different kavana. And for every shvarim, it was for this parnasa for this person, and there was hatzlacha for this person, and he was davening for different countries and different cities, and he wrote it all out before Yom Tov. And when he got up, right, the makri gets up, follows the batokeya, and guess what? He lost the paper, right? This pocket, that pocket, right? Men wearing suits, you have 7 different pockets to choose from. He couldn't find it in any one of his pockets. And the Baal Shem Tov, picked this up, he was flustered now, overwhelmed that he didn't know what the kavanas were. And he prepared so much, and he wrote it down, and he's not going to remember it. And he started to cry, started to shake. He started to cry, and he's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And Baal Shem Tov just, said, you got it, you got it, you got it. Right? And for every shvarim, shvarim trua, tkiya, every time more tears, because he felt he was losing out on what he could have done and could have accomplished during this time. And the Baal Shem Tov says to him, he says, I want to tell you something. In the king's chambers, right? In the palace, the king has chambers. And there are many, many different doors to all of these chambers. And they all have keys that open up all of these doors. But there's also what we call a skeleton key, the key that opens up every single door. In Shamayim, it's the same. In Shamayim, there's many, many different doors to a Kadosh Baruch Hu and to the different pathways to daven for different things. And each one of them needs a different key to open up, different kavanos, right, to open up that door to get those blessings, get that shefa bracha, that flow of divine bracha from on high. He says, but there's a skeleton key that opens up all of those doors at once. And you know what key that is? That is a leiv nishbar, a broken heart, right? And that's what you had. You couldn't do it. In fact, by being overwhelmed, bringing the tears, you were able to open up and unlock all of those doors, something that you could not be accomplished, with just one key. This is the key that solves it all, right? This year, we have been humbled, right, with what is going on in the world. As much as we think we are medically advanced and we know everything, we could create, we're trying to create yesh me'ayin, we can clone animals, and we want to clone people, and we want to do so much. And Baruch Hashem, we can, young families that were, infertile 50, 60 years ago, couldn't have children. Now, thank God, with technology, and these are questions that I'm receiving weekly, B'li Guzma, weekly. Baruch Hashem, there are so many different ways and avenues and pathways for people to have children. We're medically advanced. This year, we were humbled and stifled and continue to be. And we walk into and we approach Rosh Hashanah this year with a leiv nishbar, with a broken heart, and we come from a different perspective to Mamlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu this way this year. Number fourth idea comes from the Turei Torah. Again, we've been quoting the Turei Torah a few times. Rosh Hashanah Shechalus v'Shabbos. There's a big discussion as to why we don't blow shofar. We mentioned before the Kedushas Levi, but why don't we blow shofar on Shabbos? What's the big deal? Why not? Why not? So really, it's a machlokas. It's a machlokas between the Talmud Bavli and the Talmud Yerushalmi as to why we don't blow shofar. In the Bavli says we don't blow shofar. You know why? Because we're afraid. Imagine this year, so many new people are blowing shofar for the first time. We're afraid on Rosh Hashanah you are not going to be concerned about blowing shofar, and you're going to walk to, I don't know, Rabbi Gershon's house so he can teach you how to blow shofar, right? And we're afraid in your behilas, in your concern and confusion, you're going to end up carrying outside with them Erev, and therefore we don't allow you to. We don't do that. Shivat Hasa, you don't blow shofar. The Talmud Yerushalmi writes a different reason. Talmud Yerushalmi says, the pasuk says, Zichron Trua, that Rosh Hashanah is the day of Zichron, remembering the Trua. So the Yerushalmi says, when are days that we remember the Trua? It must be on a day when Rosh Hashanah fell on Shabbos. We don't blow it. We don't actively get involved with the Trua, but we remember the Trua. That's the approach of the Yerushalmi. So says the Or Yahel, Reb Lev Chasman, Yesh Liros, Mizeh. Ad kama tzarich adam Yisrael she'ed libo pasuach v'sichlo biyom HaShabbos. Ad shel yitzarech lisorer al yedei shofar. See, the shofar is supposed to wake us up. The shofar wakes us up to get closer to Hashem. It wakes us up and reminds us of maybe if we've veered off the path, right? It's like sometimes they have these protection systems now in our cars. We have it in Sarah's car. Came on automatically in her car. If you are driving and you get too close to the next car, there's a beep, 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 right? The sound system. And I think sometimes even put the brakes on for you automatically. In Rosh Hashanah in a certain way is the same way. It's the same thing. Rosh Hashanah is that system. Or the shofar is that system. Beep, beep, beep. Hey, you're sleeping through life. What's going on here? And Uru Yisheni Mishinaschem. Rosh Hashanah is there to wake us up. But on Shabbos, how are we going to wake up? How are we going to wake up? So says the Leib Chasman that the challenge of this year is to be woken up without the shofar. It's the Shabbos itself. We should make Shabbos a little bit more inspiring this year. Shabbos should be more meaningful this year. It's the Shabbos itself that should be there to wake us up and serve as that, awakening. The Neshama Yisera Shabbos, he argues. 1 second, Jules. That can accomplish that for us. Yes.
Isn't a shofar muksa?
A shofar is muksa because of this halacha. A shofar is muksa.
Oh, because of the halacha. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been. Okay.
Yeah.
So so on its own, really, it isn't, except for the.
Yeah, it's called a chachma. Yeah, it's a yeah. Okay. Fifth out of six. We're gonna do six this year. Okay, this week. Number 5. This is for the Sefer Ikarim. The Sefer Ikarim was a sefer written by Rav Yosef Albo. It's a philosophical work on Jewish thought, the Jewish philosophy sefer, and he makes the following point. We know the word Ikarim from the Rambam. The Rambam has 13 Ikarim, 13 principles of faith. The Ikarim, Rav Albo wrote a sefer called Ikarim to contest the Rambam's assumption that there are 13 principles of faith. He actually distills it and argues there are only 3. There are 3 principles of faith. And how does he know there are 3? He says his proof is Musaf Rosh Hashanah. Musaf Rosh Hashanah. There are 3 different, unique brachos that we read on Musaf Rosh Hashanah called Malchios, Zichronos, and Shofaros. And it's those 3 that for him have the 3 principles of faith. Number 1 is Malchios. And again, it's important to know what we're saying. Malchios is emuna, belief in Hashem. Recognition that God is our creator and God is in it, and he is our king. It is belief in that, and that there's a reality called God. That is number one. Secondly is zichronos, remembrances. What is remembrances? Number one is that Hashem is mashkiach the entire world. Hashem there's divine providence in the world. He remembers and he is involved. Secondly, part of zichronos is that that there's reward and punishment for our actions in this world. That's the psukim that we recite about zichronos, that Hashem remembers us. Finally, shofaros is that there is a belief. If you look at shofaros, shofar really represents the blowing of the Jewish destiny, right? Shofar shal Mashiach. So he says here that's belief in the Messiah, belief in Mashiach, belief in Tchias HaMesim, which comes at the end of days, B'mheira v'yamin, which come very soon, Be'ezrat Hashem. So he says that we can distill all the 13 principles into 3, represented by Malchios, Zichronos, and Shofaros, which is what we are reflecting on Rosh Hashana. By the way, Rosh Hashana, someone said to me, this year we're skipping some davening, so it's not Rosh Hashana, but it's Rosh, R-U-S-H, Hashana. That's a cute one. Okay, final thought for this morning comes from Rav Hirsch. This comes from a sefer called Tshuva, written by Rabbi Emanuel Bernstein, excellent book in English. He writes the following, quoting Rav Hirsch. Rav Hirsch makes a beautiful observation in this regard about shofar. The sound of the shofar is produced by blowing air into the shofar. Air is a natural resource that is readily available, and exhaling is something we do naturally 100 times a day, if not thousands. Nonetheless, merely exhaling the air many times will not produce a shofar. The air needs to be channeled and focused with effort invested on the part of the person. This is the message of shofar. It's possible to go through life just inhaling and exhaling, walking from thing to thing, from place to place, allowing things to follow their natural course, being passive or at the most mildly reactive. But living in this way will never really produce a meaningful sound. Our inhaling and exhaling needs to be focused and channeled, and we need to invest care and effort in them. And if we do that, then we become contributors to this world and to the history and the destiny of Klal Yisrael. We are not just merely subjects being acted upon in this world, but we become gavras, chefta, objects that can create our own pathways to create greater parts of our lives. I wish everybody, so we learned today 5 different thoughts. Number 1, be Coronation Day, from the Rav, a beautiful story about the impression that a Rebbe can make on a young child. Number 2, Kedushas Levi, why this year it's all L'chaim, Bezrat Hashem. What unlocks the keys to all of the doors from the Baal Shem Tov, Shofar and Shabbos, what awakens us this year, the 3 Ikare Emuna of Rav Albo based on our Tfilos, and number 6, Rav Hirsch, inhaling and exhaling. I wish everybody a tremendous Ksiva v'chasima tova. It should be of health, brachos, blessings, hatzlacha, safety, growth, clarity for us, for Klal Yisrael, for your families, and for the entire world. Kol tov.